What if I told you that masturbating every single day, something millions of older men believe is harmless, even healthy, could be the very habit quietly draining your testosterone, stressing your heart, and increasing your risk of brain fog, fatigue, and even prostate inflammation? I've been practicing men's health for over 30 years. I'm Dr. James, and in that time, I've treated thousands of men over 60 who thought they were doing the right thing until the symptoms crept in. Low energy, trouble in the bedroom, and in some cases, dangerously elevated PSA levels. Now, here's where it gets interesting. You've probably heard that frequent ejaculation helps protect the prostate. That's not entirely wrong. Some science does support that. But here's the paradox. While moderate release may reduce prostate cancer risk, excessive stimulation after age 60 can do more harm than good. Most men don't know where the line is, and by the time they find out, it's often too late. In this video, I'm going to give you the exact truth, backed by research and real patient stories, so you'll know precisely how often you should masturbate to protect your prostate, preserve your strength, and restore your confidence. No myths, no shame, just facts that could change how you age as a man. And make sure you stay with me until the end, because I'll reveal one powerful strategy that helped a 74-year-old patient reverse years of decline and get back his vitality naturally. Before we dive in, if you care about protecting your prostate, boosting your strength, and staying sharp as you age, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell so you never miss another doctor-backed tip made specifically for men over 60. And if this video speaks to you, type 1 in the comments. If not, type 0 and let me know how I can better support your journey to lasting health. All right, let's start with what the science actually says about ejaculation and prostate health, because before we can make any real changes, we need to separate the facts from the myths. You may have heard that frequent ejaculation lowers your risk of prostate cancer, and there's truth to that. But the full story is more nuanced, especially for men over 60. Let me break it down for you. 1. What science actually says about ejaculation and prostate health. Let me take you back to a quiet Tuesday morning in my office. A patient named Mark, 66 years old, sat across from me, shirt neatly tucked, silver hair, hands folded in his lap, nervous. After some small talk, he finally leaned in and asked, "Dr. James, I've been masturbating almost every day. I read somewhere it's good for my prostate. Is that true, or am I just fooling myself?" That's not a rare question. In fact, I hear it more than most people might guess. And here's the honest truth. The science on ejaculation and prostate health has some compelling answers, but not the ones most men think. One of the most talked about studies came from researchers at Harvard, published in European Urology. They followed nearly 30,000 men over 18 years and found something surprising. Men who ejaculated 21 times or more each month had a significantly lower risk of developing prostate cancer, about 33% lower in fact, compared to men who ejaculated less than 7 times per month. At first glance, that sounds like a green light, doesn't it? Ejaculate more, live longer. Simple. But here's where it gets complicated and personal. That study included men from their 20s to their 60s. It didn't focus on older men specifically. It didn't account for declining cardiovascular resilience, shifting hormonal baselines, or the role that overstimulation, especially in a digital age, can play in long-term health. As a physician who spent over 3 decades working with men over 60, I can tell you the way your body responds to stimulation at 30 is not how it responds at 65. Your prostate is more sensitive, your testosterone replenishment is slower, and your nervous system, especially your heart and vascular system, reacts differently to sexual arousal and climax. So while ejaculation might provide protective benefits in younger years, that same frequency can begin to carry risks if not approached mindfully in later life. The science isn't black and white, it's a spectrum. And most important of all, it's deeply individual. Another layer of this conversation often gets missed entirely. The Harvard study measured frequency of ejaculation, but not the quality of the experience. Was it in the context of healthy intimacy, emotional connection, or mindful release, or was it compulsive, rushed, isolated, and mechanical? That distinction matters far more than people realize. Because I've seen it all. I've seen men who masturbate 3 times a week feel energized, connected, and clear-headed. And I've seen men who do it daily, sometimes multiple times a day, who end up feeling anxious, fatigued, numb, and ashamed. There's also a physical aspect that many don't talk about. Ejaculation does help flush the prostate and may help reduce inflammation. It encourages circulation in the pelvic area, and that's a good thing, within reason. But after age 60, your tissues don't regenerate as fast. Your blood vessels don't dilate as easily. And if you're not moving enough, hydrating, or supporting your circulation with diet and supplements, then frequent ejaculation can actually lead to congestion, not cleansing. That's when I start seeing men with higher PSA scores, chronic pelvic tightness, or difficulty maintaining strong erections. Not because they're not releasing enough, but because they're over-releasing without recovery. Emotionally, it becomes a feedback loop. The release becomes routine. Then the excitement fades. Then the guilt creeps in. Then the cycle repeats, sometimes out of boredom, sometimes out of anxiety, and sometimes just out of habit. That's why the question, is masturbation good for your prostate, is incomplete. The real question is your pattern of release supporting your body's natural rhythm or working against it? When Mark left my office that day, I didn't tell him to stop masturbating. I told him to slow down, listen to his body, and treat his release not as a reflex, but as a ritual. I helped him establish a healthier routine, improve his diet, and get his blood flow moving again. And within 6 weeks, he wasn't just feeling better. His labs showed improvement. He had more energy, fewer nighttime trips to the bathroom, and for the first time in years, he told me he felt like himself again. That's the power of understanding, not just what science says, but how it actually applies to you, your body, and your stage of life. Now, with that foundation laid, let me ask you something that most men never think about. What if the very habit you use for stress relief, especially after 60, is quietly putting strain on your heart? Because that's exactly what we're going to unpack next. And trust me, you'll want to hear this, especially if you've ever felt your chest tighten or your breath catch during climax. The next part might just save your life. 2. What can go wrong after 60? I remember the moment vividly. A 72-year-old patient of mine, Leonard, sat in front of me proud but visibly confused. He said, "Doc, I'm doing everything right, eating clean, walking every day, taking my supplements, and I'm still keeping things active, even down there. But lately I've been feeling off, my energy's flat, I'm foggy, and honestly, I don't feel like myself." Then he hesitated and added, "I've been masturbating almost daily, just to keep the system flowing. Could that be the problem?" That's a moment every doctor who works with older men knows well. It's when the story shifts from what we think is healthy to what our bodies are actually telling us. The truth is, after 60, even the most natural functions, like ejaculation, come with a different set of rules. Your body changes in quiet ways, and when it comes to frequent masturbation, those changes can turn a once beneficial habit into a hidden stressor. Let's talk about your heart. You see, climax isn't just about release, it's a cardiovascular event. During orgasm, your sympathetic nervous system, the fight or flight mechanism, kicks into gear. Heart rate spikes, blood pressure rises, and your arteries constrict temporarily. That's a lot of strain in a short time. In younger men, the heart handles it easily. But after 60, especially if you have any underlying hypertension or arterial stiffness, this sudden surge can be dangerous. I've had patients who felt lightheaded, short of breath, or even experienced minor chest pain after climax, not realizing that the act itself was putting real pressure on their cardiovascular system. Worse still, many men unknowingly hold their breath during climax. It's called the Valsalva maneuver, something your body does instinctively under pressure. But when you combine held breath, spiked blood pressure, and a tightening vascular system, that's a cocktail that can silently increase your risk for stroke or cardiac episodes. And it's not about panic, it's about preparation. If you're releasing frequently and your body's not ready for it, you're working against your own biology. Then there's the brain. Most men never connect the dots between daily masturbation and mental fog, but I've seen it over and over again. Dopamine, the pleasure chemical, floods your system with each climax. But when it happens too often, especially without full recovery, the brain begins to blunt its own response. Suddenly, the same things that used to excite you, music, food, even affection, feel flat. You're not broken. You're just overstimulated. Men come into my office and say things like, "I don't know what's wrong with me. I'm tired, unmotivated, I'm not depressed, but I'm not really alive either." Often, their daily habits are quietly exhausting their neurotransmitters. Not just dopamine, but serotonin, oxytocin, and the cascade of hormones that support brain health, mood, and sleep. And when your brain is depleted, your body follows. Sleep suffers, blood sugar gets thrown off, even testosterone can begin to decline. I want to be clear, masturbation is not the enemy, but compulsive, unchecked, or overly frequent release, especially when driven by habit or anxiety, can become a quiet thief of your vitality. And emotionally, the cost can be just as heavy. I once treated a retired school principal named Dennis. He was 70, smart, kind, and deeply ashamed. He admitted he had been masturbating several times a day, not out of desire, but out of loneliness. His wife had passed. His routine was gone, and what began as a source of comfort turned into a prison of isolation. He wasn't connecting with anyone, he wasn't sleeping well, he had begun skipping meals, and the worst part, he thought it was normal. That's the silent danger. When a once healthy act becomes a coping mechanism for grief, boredom, or anxiety, it can quietly drain your spirit. It's no longer about pleasure, it's about escape. And at this stage of life, that emotional distance can create real physiological consequences. Elevated cortisol, disrupted testosterone rhythms, a weakened immune system, and even chronic inflammation. So yes, masturbation can support your health, but only when your body is ready, your nervous system is balanced, and your habits are aligned with your actual needs, not your old expectations. When Leonard followed my advice, reduced his frequency to just 2 or 3 times a week, began practicing deep breathing before release, added hydration and magnesium, he didn't just feel clearer, he was clearer. His resting blood pressure dropped. His sleep deepened. And after a month, he looked me in the eye and said, "Dr. James, I didn't know how heavy I was feeling until the weight lifted." That's what I want for you, not just a functioning body, but a revitalized one. Not just routine release, but meaningful strength. But now that we've explored the risks, the next question becomes even more important. So how often should a man over 60 be masturbating to support his health, not sabotage it? Because too little can cause problems, but too much may cause more. And that answer, my friend, is where the real transformation begins. 3. So, what's the right amount? After everything I've just shared with you about the benefits, the risks, and the unseen emotional toll of overdoing it, you may be asking the question that every man eventually wants to ask, but few say out loud, so how often should I actually be doing it? It's a simple question, but for men over 60, the answer is anything but one size fits all. I've had patients on both ends of the spectrum. Some haven't released in months, either because of fear, guilt, or just losing the drive altogether. Others are stuck in daily routines, not even thinking about it anymore, just reacting to stress, boredom, or habit, and both types of men end up in my office wondering why they feel off, why their energy is down, their motivation is gone, or their sense of self just isn't what it used to be. Here's what I've learned after 30 years of listening, observing, and treating. The healthiest rhythm is one that honors your body's current season, not the one you lived in 20 years ago. If you're over 60, your body needs more recovery time, physically, hormonally, emotionally. Your cardiovascular system takes longer to normalize. Your dopamine stores need time to refill, and your testosterone production, already slower than in your younger years, can be disrupted if you're pushing for release before your system is ready. Most of the men I work with feel their best when they masturbate about 2 to 4 times per week. That's not a hard rule. Some do better with less. A few who are incredibly active and well-conditioned feel fine with a bit more. But almost without exception, when someone cuts down from daily to a few times weekly, especially with intention rather than impulse, they see dramatic improvements in energy, mood, sleep, and confidence. And it's not just how often, it's how you do it. When a man approaches masturbation as a mindful act with awareness of breath, sensation, and self-respect, his nervous system responds very differently than when he rushes through it as a distraction or compulsion. I teach many of my older patients to incorporate breathing techniques, slow, deep inhales during arousal, and gentle exhales through climax. It not only protects the heart, but also supports circulation and reduces the crash that often follows mindless release. Hydration is another underestimated factor. Erections and ejaculation depend on proper blood flow and fluid balance. And yet so many men forget to drink water before or after, leading to subtle fatigue, tension, or pelvic congestion. One of my simplest tips, drink a full glass of water both before and after any sexual activity, has changed the way many men feel within days. Also, be honest with yourself about what's driving your desire. Is it genuine connection with your body, or are you using the moment to fill an emotional void, loneliness, anxiety, restlessness, or even frustration? That's not a judgment. We're all human. But when you begin to understand what's behind the habit, you gain the power to change the pattern. I recall a man named Henry, 69 years old, former Navy officer, still sharp, still independent, but he came to me saying he felt disconnected from himself, from others, and from life. We discovered he was releasing 6 times a week, often without even thinking about it. No ritual, no care, just habit. So we set a goal: slow it down. 3 times per week, add breath work, drink water, stretch afterward, and most importantly, replace the other days with connection, calls with old friends, quiet reflection, walks in nature. Within 3 weeks, his sleep improved. His posture changed, and one day he looked at me and said something I'll never forget. I didn't realize how much I was losing until I stopped trying to feel something and started letting myself feel everything. That's the power of rhythm. Not control, not suppression, balance. So if you've been wondering how often is too often, start here. 2 to 4 times per week with intention. Respect your age, your recovery, your nervous system. And if that number feels too high or too low for you, adjust gently. Your body will tell you. It always does. And here's the part most men never consider. When you give your body the space it needs, something else starts to return. Morning erections, spontaneous desire, even deeper emotional presence. You don't lose your manhood with age. You reclaim it when you stop fighting your nature and start listening to it. Now, you might be wondering, what happens when you do everything right? When you find the right rhythm, breathe correctly, stay hydrated, cut back to a healthy frequency, but still struggle with weak erections or numbness? That brings us to a powerful story about one of my oldest patients who made a small change that restored not just his function, but his confidence. And it's something any man over 60 can do, starting today. 4. The 74-year-old who reversed his decline. His name was Walter, a retired carpenter from Ohio. Tall, wiry, with hands that had built homes and raised a family, now trembling slightly as he sat down in my office. He was 74 years old, but when I first met him, he looked tired, not just physically, but in his spirit. He smiled politely, but there was heaviness behind his eyes, the kind that doesn't come from a single bad night's sleep, but from years of quiet frustration. He leaned in and said, "Dr. James, I'll be honest with you. I still masturbate 2, sometimes 3 times a day. I know that sounds like a lot, but I thought it would keep everything working down there, keep my prostate clean, keep my edge. But lately, I feel numb, not just physically, emotionally too. I'm not connecting. I'm not enjoying it. It's just habit." There was no shame in his voice, just confusion, like he had followed the rules but still ended up lost. I looked him in the eye and told him what I'm going to tell you now. At some point in every man's life, especially after 60, you have to stop chasing performance and start honoring the rhythm of your body. It's not about doing less, it's about doing it better, more mindfully, with purpose. We talked about everything, his daily routine, how he felt afterward, how his mornings were, how his nights ended. He admitted he hadn't had a strong morning erection in years. He had trouble falling asleep, felt foggy by lunchtime, and most painfully, he said he felt invisible, even to himself. So we started small. First, we cut his release frequency in half, no more than 3 times a week. That alone gave his nervous system space to reset. Then we added breath work, slow nasal breathing during arousal, exhaling through climax to reduce heart strain. I had him drink a full glass of water before and after each release. We added magnesium glycinate at night, a little extra zinc in the morning, and made sure he was walking daily to move blood through his lower body. And most important, we changed how he thought about pleasure. It wasn't something he owed his body, it was something to give back to it, slowly, respectfully. No rushing, no numbing distractions, no autopilot. He didn't notice much the first few days, but after about 10 days, he said something shifted. His mind felt clearer. His posture improved. He started waking up feeling rested, not just from sleep, but from something deeper, like his body was finally exhaling after years of tension. He called me after 2 weeks, and I could hear something new in his voice, pride. He said, "Doc, miss, I had a natural erection this morning. I wasn't even trying. It just happened." That moment meant more than any lab result ever could. We're trained to chase numbers, testosterone levels, PSA scores, blood pressure, and don't get me wrong, they matter. But what I saw in Walter was something no number could capture, a man who finally returned home to himself. He wasn't just releasing tension, he was rebuilding trust in his body. 4 weeks in, his energy had improved so much that he started going to the gym again, just light weights. But he said he felt like his legs belonged to him again. That's the connection men lose with overstimulation. Not just sexual, but mental and emotional. When everything is on demand, we forget how to listen. Walter started sleeping through the night. His digestion improved. He even called an old friend and planned a fishing trip. Not because a doctor told him to, but because he finally felt alive enough to want it. By week 6, he walked into my office, stood taller, and smiled without that old hesitation. He said, "I didn't know I could feel this way at my age. I thought this part of me was gone for good." It wasn't gone. It was buried under overstimulation, under routine, under the mistaken belief that more release equals more health. The truth is your body knows when it's ready. It just needs you to listen again. Walter's transformation wasn't magic. It was rhythm, respect, and a little guidance. And here's the part that most men miss. What worked for him isn't just a feel-good story. It's a blueprint. A roadmap that men all over the country just like you can follow. Because when you get your rhythm back, you get your life back. But there's still one missing piece. You've heard the stories. You've heard the science. You've learned the right rhythm. Now you need the tools, the real practical steps to support your body so that every release works for you, not against you. And it all begins with one simple checklist. 7 things every man over 60 should start doing immediately to protect his prostate, sharpen his mind, and restore the strength he thought was gone. Let's get into it. 5. What you can do starting today. I've sat across from hundreds of men over the years, smart, hardworking, good men who built careers, raised families, served their communities, and yet, when it comes to their own health, especially intimate health, they're left guessing, left alone with Google searches, myths, and silent habits that pile up over time. That's why I care so deeply about what I'm going to share with you now. Because if you've made it this far, if you've listened to the science, heard the stories, and begun to see yourself in the words, then you're not just curious. You're ready to do something about it. And the good news is, you don't need a miracle drug. You don't need a new prescription. You just need a few powerful, consistent steps. Simple shifts that align with how your body actually works after 60. The first is to reduce frequency. Not because you need to give it up, but because your body needs space to recover, to rebuild, and to respond. Aim for 2 to 4 times per week. That rhythm works with your natural testosterone cycle and gives your nervous system time to reset. When you move from daily automatic release to a more intentional pattern, you begin to feel the difference, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally too. Second, hydrate. It sounds too simple, but it's one of the most overlooked pieces. Blood flow, hormonal circulation, tissue repair, all of it depends on hydration. A dehydrated man is an inflamed man. I tell my patients, 1 glass of water before release and 1 after. It's not just a habit, it's a message to your body that you're supporting it, not draining it. Third, focus on circulation. After 60, one of the most silent threats to your health is poor blood flow, especially down there. When you sit for hours, your pelvic area becomes stiff, tight, starved of oxygen. That's when symptoms creep in: weaker erections, numbness, slower recovery. Just 10 minutes of walking twice a day or 5 minutes of simple leg stretches can restore vitality to areas you've forgotten about. Your blood is your body's delivery system. Keep it moving. Fourth, support your hormones with nutrition. Your body doesn't produce testosterone the way it did at 30. It needs the raw materials: zinc, magnesium, healthy fats, and deep sleep. Most older men are unknowingly deficient in all 3. I recommend pumpkin seeds, spinach, olive oil, eggs, and a good quality magnesium supplement in the evening. Not because they're trendy, but because they've been shown time and again to restore balance in aging male bodies. Fifth, avoid overstimulation. This one is tough, but it matters. Porn and endless scrolling numb your reward system. What once excited you begins to feel flat. Your brain adapts to high-intensity content and stops responding to real connection, real sensation. If you've been relying on screens, challenge yourself to step back. Give your brain a reset. It may take a few days, but the rewards, more desire, stronger sensitivity, deeper satisfaction, are worth it. Sixth, pay attention to how you feel afterward. If you're feeling calm, clear, relaxed, that's a good sign. But if you're left feeling empty, foggy, or disconnected, your body's telling you something. Guilt, fatigue, low motivation after release are not normal for your age. They're warning lights. Listen to them. Adjust. It's not about judging yourself, it's about honoring your biology. And seventh, bring intention back into your habits. Whether you're in a relationship or on your own, your intimacy with yourself should be a form of care, not just release. Light a candle. Breathe slower. Stretch before or after. Say something kind to yourself. These small acts tell your nervous system you're safe, you're cared for, you matter, and that message alone can begin to shift your entire chemistry. I had a patient once, a 65-year-old widower named Frank. He was skeptical when I told him these steps could help. He said, "Doc, I'm too far gone. I've been on autopilot for years." But he tried anyway. Cut back, walked more, ate better, took breaks from stimulation. After a month, he came in smiling. "I'm waking up early. I'm not dragging through the day anymore, and I actually want to go out and see people again." That's not just a physical shift, that's a man coming back to life. This is what's possible when you stop fighting your age and start aligning with it. You've spent decades taking care of others. Now it's time to take care of you. And in just a moment, I'm going to bring everything together. What we've learned, what it means, and the most important takeaway every man over 60 needs to hear. Because this isn't just about masturbation. It's about how you live, how you age, and how you reclaim your strength with clarity, confidence, and purpose. Let's finish strong. Conclusion. I want to take a moment here, just man to man, and say something I don't think many doctors say enough. I see you. I see the effort you're making to stay healthy, to stay strong, to stay you. And I know it's not always easy, especially when it comes to topics like this. For many men over 60, talking about masturbation, prostate health, and intimacy isn't just uncomfortable, it's uncharted territory. And yet here you are. You showed up, you stayed, you listened. That matters. We've covered a lot in this video. We began by challenging a belief that's become surprisingly common, the idea that masturbating every day is automatically good for your prostate and your health. The truth, as we've seen, is more nuanced than that. The science does show that regular ejaculation can help flush the prostate and may reduce your risk of prostate cancer. But what works at 30 doesn't always work at 65 or 70. As you age, your body changes. Your circulation shifts. Your hormones fluctuate, and what used to feel energizing can, if done too often or too mindlessly, start to drain you instead of build you up. We look closely at what can go wrong when masturbation becomes too frequent after 60, the increased strain on your heart, the overstimulation of your brain's dopamine system, the drop in testosterone, and the emotional consequences that can come with using release as a substitute for real connection. I shared stories from my own patients, men like Leonard and Dennis, who came to me not because they had given up, but because they were searching for something more than just physical relief. They wanted clarity. They wanted to feel like themselves again. And then we talked about the right rhythm, how most men in their 60s and 70s thrive when they find a pattern of 2 to 4 times per week, one that allows their bodies to recover, rebuild, and respond with strength. We discussed how slowing down, breathing with intention, and staying hydrated can completely shift how your body processes pleasure, and how, when approached with care instead of compulsion, masturbation can still be a part of your life, just not the thing that defines it. I shared the story of Walter, the 74-year-old man who thought his best days were behind him until he made a few small changes and reignited something powerful within himself. Not because of a pill, not because of a procedure, but because he was willing to listen, to reset, and to believe that it wasn't too late to feel alive again. And I gave you the tools. 7 things you can start doing today to protect your prostate, sharpen your mind, and reclaim the strength you may have thought was lost for good. Simple, practical steps that any man, no matter his age, health status, or relationship situation, can begin right now. But here's what I want to leave you with. This conversation is not just about masturbation, it's about ownership. Ownership of your time, your energy, your focus, your aging. Because you are not a passive passenger in your health journey. You're the driver. You have choices, power, and control. And your body? It's still on your side. Even if it's changed, even if it doesn't respond the way it used to. It hasn't given up on you. It's just asking for a different kind of attention now. One that honors where you've been and supports where you still want to go. I've worked with men who thought their vitality was gone for good. Men who hadn't had a good night's sleep in years. Men who felt disconnected from themselves and their partners. And I've seen those very same men regain clarity, strength, and connection, often with nothing more than a few shifts in how they approached their habits and honored their bodies. So wherever you are in your journey, whether you feel in control or a little lost, I want you to remember this. You are not broken. You are not past your prime, and you are not alone. Your health, your energy, your sense of manhood, it's all still within reach. It just takes attention, consistency, and a willingness to evolve. If you found this message helpful, I encourage you to share it with another man who needs to hear it. A brother, a friend, a father, a partner. Because the more we talk about this, the more we shine a light on what really matters, the more we rise together. You've got this. And I'm here to keep guiding you every step of the way. So stay tuned, because in the next video, we're diving even deeper into the specific nutrients, habits, and daily rituals that can help restore blood flow, protect your testosterone, and bring back that powerful sense of confidence you deserve. You won't want to miss it.